Everyone's panicking about AI taking jobs, but they're missing the point entirely. Jobs were already dying long before ChatGPT existed. The companies that figured this out are now worth trillions, while everyone else is still playing by the rules that stopped working decades ago. I'm Evan Goldstein. I'm a licensed professional engineer and a data scientist. I'm building AI capitalists to talk to the leaders and the thinkers, like you, about navigating this brave new world of thinking machines. Right now, we're living through the end of something that most people think is permanent, but was actually just a brief experiment in human history. I'm talking about jobs. The whole concept of showing up somewhere for 40 years, getting your pension check, and it arrives every month for life, and then calling that a career. If you're young today, or if you're raising kids, you need to understand that you're preparing them for a world where traditional employment is going extinct. It's not evolving, it's not changing, it is disappearing entirely. This isn't some distant future scenario. There are people losing their jobs right now who will never get another one, period. When I say job, I mean that traditional setup where you show up somewhere from 9 to 5 and you collect steady money. That recurring revenue stream that our parents built their lives around. So what's actually killing this system? Jobs, as we know them, are actually incredibly new. They only became a mass thing around the 1920s. This whole idea of lifetime employment, getting that pension check every month, and then working your way up a corporate ladder lasted for maybe 70 years. We somehow got this idea that was the natural order of things, but it was really just a temporary solution to a specific problem. For a long time now, we've been slowly easing into this post-job world, and artificial intelligence isn't even the main driver. The way job reports come out these days, there's a massive underreporting because they don't count people who have completely given up looking. And the number of people who are cobbling together gig work and bouncing between short-term contracts, working multiple part-time jobs just to survive, it's enormous. Now, I don't consider that real employment, and neither do most people because it's just not sustainable. People get dropped constantly. And let me tell you what started this whole thing because most people miss it completely. The economic pressure that created the 9-to-5 job disappeared long before AI showed up. Back in the day, companies built those corporate campuses with cafeterias and gyms because they had one simple problem. Communication was incredibly difficult over long distances. Just think about it. If a company needed someone skilled at accounting and they wanted to make sure that they had that skill available this year, next year, 5 years from now, the most cost-effective approach was to find a promising person and then to train them up. It was like getting a fresh canvas waiting for paint, someone with basic intelligence who could be shaped for specific tasks. And this is why companies would recruit from elite universities or local colleges. Universities became a professional certification process, a way to identify people who were generally smart and trainable. Companies would look at your GPA and think, okay, this person can learn, we'll hire them, and we'll teach them everything they need to know. You would see these cross-department shadowing programs everywhere, especially for management tracks. The whole idea was to invest in human development. There's a clear sign that those days are completely over. Nobody trains anyone anymore. The concept of apprenticeship, of investing in someone's growth has pretty much vanished. People are expected to hit the ground running from day one with zero support. Some organizations have training programs, but they're still getting phased out pretty fast. They never worked that way anyway. This old system made sense because if you got trained and then you lived in most cities, you didn't have a lot of options. Maybe you could find one competitor to work for, but that was about it. There were huge incentives to stay with your company, not just because of limited mobility, but because pensions and benefits required long-term commitment to the company. Companies and workers had aligned interests. They invest in you, and you invested in them. It made financial sense to train someone because you could reasonably expect them to stick around for decades. Nowadays, it would be crazy to invest in training someone. People are so likely to jump ship that it's actually a risk to teach them. Whatever you teach them, they're just going to take with them to your competitor anyway. But then something that changed everything happened. And it wasn't artificial intelligence. If you look at the economic data, you can see when the economic escalator broke and some people kept rising while others got stuck. And it was around 1976. Income data, salary growth, everything starts diverging right there. There's a lot of theories as to why this happened, but one of the big causes was two technologies that became widespread. Telephones and the internet. The internet wasn't until later. But suddenly, if a company needed someone skilled in accounting, they could hire someone in Africa or India or the Philippines for pennies on the dollar compared to what they would pay someone in the United States. Why would you pay full price when you could get broadly similar work for lunch money? Yes, you might lose some office chemistry, some cultural understanding, but the math was just overwhelming. And this is actually what collapsed global poverty. It wasn't all bad. And if you look at severe poverty rates worldwide, they start plummeting at exactly the same time that American salaries begin stagnating. American workers were now competing in a global marketplace, whether they realized it or not. But there were still some roles that made sense to keep local. Bureaucratic inertia kept some jobs around until artificial intelligence came, and now it's changing the game entirely. But let me back up a little bit. Even before AI became a thing, regular technology and automation had been steadily replacing human work. There's no clean before AI and after AI line. There was a before email and an after email. Before customer relationship management software, before all the automation tools that let one person do what used to take three people. This is why you started hearing people complain in the 90s and beyond that I'm expected to do the job of three people now, and it's just so stressful. But they weren't really doing three jobs. They had software helping them. It's like how household management became a lot more efficient with dishwashers and refrigerators and washing machines. If you're concerned about your own operations falling behind, or if you're trying to figure out how to leverage these new tools to stay ahead, you can drop me a line. You can learn more about strategic AI adoption at www.aicapitalist.bit. The pandemic and Zoom took this even further. All of a sudden, the whole concept of a corporate campus became questionable. But here's what's really shifted everything, and I think it started with Twitter. Companies began realizing, like, oh my God, we probably have 60 to 80% more employees than we actually need. We could eliminate most of them and just function just as well. So look what happened when Twitter fired 80% of its staff. All the experts predicted disaster. The platform would crash, user experience would suffer, and the company would collapse. None of that happened. Twitter functions as well as it ever did, and arguably better. Features like Grok, their AI system, are genuinely improvements to the system. And corporate America took notes. We've seen massive layoffs ever since, but they're happening in subtle ways to avoid panic. Companies are ordering people back to the office and making new requirements, but it's not because office work is suddenly valuable again. Everyone knows that corporate work is pointless. They're calling people back so that they can just fire the ones who don't comply. It gives them grounds to lay people off. Now, there are exceptions. Elon Musk's own companies need people physically present because they're building actual things. Tesla factories, SpaceX facilities, hospitals, they all require a human presence. But most office work is already obsolete. As a parent, I'm having these conversations with my kids. So when my kid comes and asks for money, you've got to say, you're probably not going to get a traditional job. You're going to have to build your own company someday when you work. You can't just go somewhere to get paid regularly. That whole system is ending. That's, by the way, my own motivation for building AI Capitalist. We're now moving into consulting. Well, that's not 100% true. There will always be some salaried positions at big organizations, but they're going to become incredibly rare and honestly degrading. It's going to be like one of those old factory towns where there were always long lines of people waiting outside desperate for work. If you didn't accept poor treatment and terrible conditions and whatever they demanded, they could just point to the line and say, one of those people is going to take your job for less. When you have access to workers anywhere in the world, that dynamic gets even worse. But with AI, the situation becomes completely different. The people I know who dismiss AI and say, it's really not that good at thinking, it's not that capable. So these are the people who haven't used it recently. They tried it 2 years ago when it first came out, had a bad experience, and then never went back. Now my response is always, try it again. Use the current models, the paid versions. Now, when these people tried it originally, what were they even testing it with? Probably something like, tell me a joke or a basic conversation, and then concluding that it's useless. They're not asking it to do actual work. We use it constantly. Say, hey, help me understand these tax documents, or draft an executive summary on this topic, or give me research links on this subject, or create artwork for our title cards. I use it for tax help all the time. It's very good at translating legalese into plain English, which is genuinely useful. I use it for examining building codes as an engineer. I'll ask systems like Grok, what topics would my audience want to hear? And then I get excellent suggestions. Instead of hiring researchers, I use Perplexity to find comprehensive information on any subject. A lot of the videos that I use, they used to be outsourced, or I would find B-roll online from sources. Now I generate a lot of it, and it's genuinely better and more engaging. So artificial intelligence needs to be used effectively. And to use AI effectively, You have to understand multiple systems and know which is best for each task. So that's why businesses adopting AI would do well to consult with experts who understand these nuances, because choosing the wrong model for specific tasks can carry a real risk. We've traced the slow death of the traditional job from breaking the economic escalator in the 1970s to the rise of automation and remote work. Now, we see that AI is not just another tool, but it's a complex ecosystem that requires expertise to navigate. But everything we've discussed so far is just a prelude. Real transformation, the one that's going to make even elite human skills obsolete, is the arrival of artificial general intelligence.